We're talking about the difference between building resilience and compounding trauma. And this commenter says they're really struggling to build resilience when it feels like everything scares their dog, especially outside. And these are exactly the dogs I tend to work with, where we're seeing chronic dysregulation because of anxiety disorders, hyperarousal, chronic stress, hypoarousal. And these dogs tend to have really complex behavior needs. They do tend to be afraid of everything because they have anxiety. So I think there are two things to consider in this situation that can be helpful. The first is giving yourself permission to scale back, to increase your management beyond probably what you initially thought. I often find that my clients need permission to do the thing that truly sets their dog up, to not be constantly trigger stacked, and to allow them to begin to move into a place of felt safety, physiological safety. Now, every individual situation is going to be different, but I have clients who don't go outside. I have clients who stick to the yard, or if they don't have a yard, they're doing very brief potty breaks. Their outings are just like in front of the building. And I think one of the reasons this can be so hard is because we have this perception of what a dog needs. Of course, my dog needs to go outside, right? I can't not take my dog outside. And yeah, for most dogs, outside is important. But for a dog who's experiencing toxic levels of stress every time they step outside, and sometimes multiple times, or it never comes down while they're outside, that's detrimental to their health. We're not getting any benefit from that for the dog. And if we want to help them live a life where ultimately they can be outside, we have to go back far enough to where they can feel safe. And sometimes that means cutting that out. Again, it definitely depends on the individual situation and for the individual dog, but sometimes that's the case. And then the other thing to consider is sometimes we tend to jump right to, I need to work with my dog and their triggers. So for example, with the walks, I need to be working on the triggers themselves. And that's where we can really feel stuck, because if I can't even get into an environment where my dog perceives the trigger in any amount, how do I do that? So now I'm working with the dog over threshold, and things are getting worse and worse and worse. And so another part of taking a holistic approach is saying, well, this dog's quality of sleep is very poor. We really need to address that before we do any work with triggers directly. And so a big part of behavior therapy then is figuring out how to increase this dog's quality of sleep. Sometimes we're saying this is a medical concern, the level of stress that this dog is experiencing. We need a vent medication on board around the clock while we get out of crisis mode. And so it can be vital to zoom out and say, am I doing too much too fast? Am I trying to go directly to, the trigger when I don't have the foundation for the dog's body to feel safe?